Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Dubs, the Angry Black Conservative. I'm your host, Dubs. Want to thank everybody for listening in on this. The reason why I'm doing this is because I got attacked on Facebook, as always, by people who are willing to attack me, not based on facts or anything, but based on the fact that they just want to say whatever they want to say. And then when you tell them that you're being factually inaccurate or you're uninformed or just saying something that you can't quantify, somehow that makes me a bad person. So here's the deal. You got people on Facebook, you got people in the news and everything else, and all the other people who are putting up The Handmaid's Tale. They probably have never read The Handmaid's Tale. They've, I'm sure some of them have seen the TV show because that takes a lot less intelligence and so on and so forth. But hey, who am I to judge? But saying that Republicans want this country to become a Handmaid's Tale kind of place is just ridiculous. It's hyperbole. It's stupid. It's illogical. It's not based in fact. You can't find a Republican who is running around saying that we need to take women and make them vessels of the state. It's just a ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous statement to make. It's just ridiculous. I'm getting tired. I'm not getting tired of it. I am tired of it, and frankly, it's insulting to your intelligence. So, in any case, I wanted to get into this a little bit. The Roe versus Wade thing. By the way, Ruth Bader Ginsburg says that it's bad law. So here's a woman on the Supreme Court who was saying how bad a ruling that was, and that you still have people who are screaming and yelling and shouting about it, saying that, this is going to be the death of the country, women are going to lose all their autonomy and all this other nonsense. That's just not the case. Basically, if the draft goes through, then all it does is it takes the control of making laws for abortion back into the hands of the state. It is just that simple. You're not making abortions illegal and all the other stuff. And for the people who say, well, yeah, but now the states are going to do it. Well, let's talk about abortion real quick. Now, I don't like the euphemisms. I don't like the calling abortion. Every successful abortion means that you have the death of a human being. So I want to go through this a little bit. And I'm trying not to be graphic about it. And if I do get a little graphic, I apologize, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to shock. I'm not trying to, get anybody upset. Let's just talk about the facts of what happens during an abortion. So the other thing is this, and if you really want to dig into this a little bit, and you know how I feel about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, I think everybody should read it. I think one of the problems that we have in this country is that most people have not. And because they have not read it, they really don't understand how our government is supposed to work. But it's really very simple. The Roe versus Wade thing is good because by putting it back into the hands of the state, it gets the federal government out of something that they were never supposed to be involved in. If you go to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, it gives you all the different things that the legislative branch, mostly federal branch, federal law is supposed to be doing in this country. Now you can check out Article 2, which is the executive branch, Article 3, which is the judicial branch, and that's great, and I want you to do that, do your own homework. I always say do your own homework. But the fact of the matter is that our federal government has gotten itself involved in more things than it's supposed to be involved in. And that's why the federal government has ballooned, and how it's gotten so big, and how it needs so much money, and how it's become so corrupt and everything else. And if you just did what we conservatives say to do, which is return back to those tenets that the Constitution is there for, lean heavily on the 10th Amendment, which states that, simply put, anything that's not written into the Constitution for what the federal government is specifically supposed to do is supposed to be taken care of by the states. The federal government should not hold so much sway over what we do on a daily basis. That was for your local government and your state government to handle. So by abdicating that kind of control to the federal government, we find ourselves in these issues. Now, if you want to draw a parallel, take a look, because everything's got to be racism. If you sneeze and you don't cover your mouth, it's because you're a racist, you see. So let's say you have the people who are comparing the Roe versus Wade thing to interracial marriage, and they're saying they're going to get rid of interracial marriage. It's terrible. It's ridiculous. First of all, the federal government, under another progressive, because we need liberals, conservatives and liberals need each other. We're yin and yang. But once you go to the extremes, you start having problems. Nationalists and progressives. So I can have a conversation with a liberal all day long. I can't talk to a progressive. And unfortunately, most of the people who are attacking me are progressives, and they're cowards because they don't want to talk to me face to face. They don't want to have a one-on-one conversation. What they want to do is be their keyboard warriors, hide behind their screens, send out their sniping, posts and so on and so forth, and then pat themselves on the back for how colorful they can be and their ingenuity and their wordsmith. Well, the fact of the matter is that they're cowards because they don't want to have the conversation. So, and I don't say that in a bad way, but it is what it is. If you're willing to have a conversation with somebody, then go ahead and have the conversation. If you're going to hide behind your keyboard because you don't want to have the conversation face to face, then yeah, you're a coward, and that's all there is to it. So, any case, getting back to it, the progressive of the Woodrow Wilson, who resegregated the military, who also is the guy who said you can't have interracial marriage. Well, he was a progressive, Democrat progressive. Margaret Sanger, progressive, putting, all the Planned Parenthoods into the urban areas so that black people can continue to, control their population by having all these abortions and stuff. And that's not a flippant thing. That's basically saying you got 6.5% of the population doing about 40% of the abortions. That's really, really bad. So I could, if I wanted to, make the argument that people who are pro-choice are actually against black people because we seem to be doing a really good job of killing ourselves with murder and killing ourselves with abortion. But in any case, getting off on a tangent, didn't mean to do that. But, so let's talk about the abortion thing, okay? So, first of all, here's the hypocrisy of the abortion. You cannot divorce from abortions. When you start talking about a woman's controlling of her body and autonomy and all this other stuff, you can't divorce the fact from that the abortion, a successful abortion, results in the death of a human being. It is just that simple. I'm not one for euphemisms. I like straight talk. I didn't say you're murdering because murder is a legal term, but you are killing a human being with every successful abortion. It's just that simple. So then you have the crowd who says, well, it's a clump of cells. Okay, well, first of all, that's a stupid argument to make because we're all clumps of cells. We just get bigger and bigger because we continue to grow. But let's take that one, put that one in the back pocket for a little bit because it's just a stupid argument. Let's talk about the clump of cells. Let's talk about the science behind it. All right. And again, I encourage you, fact check me. Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm not saying things that are accurate, then by all means blast me for it. Totally cool with it. But I encourage you again, do your own homework. So let's just go through some highlights. So, types of abortions. Well, number one, they can use the saline. Okay, saline's the salt solution, sodium, whatever you want to call it. Basically, what you're doing is you're doing the chemical burn. You're going to burn the baby to death. Okay, so nice way to die. Being burned to death in a vat of acid. So that's the one way of doing it. Second way of doing it, the old dismemberment, So that's when they go in and they basically cut the arms off, cut the legs off, and crush the skull, pull all the pieces out, because you've got to pull the pieces out, because if you don't pull the pieces out and basically reassemble the the cut up baby, you might get you might cause an infection in the mother. So we got to make sure we got all the pieces and stuff. Can't get an infection. So that's the other way to do. As I said, you can crush it to death, and that's always fun. These are all wonderful ways of killing the child and everything. My favorite is the old late-term abortion. So again, not being graphic, we're just not using euphemisms. We're just being honest about what happens. So late-term abortion, baby is too big to fit through the birth canal. So what we do is we go in with forceps or pliers or whatever you want to call them. You go in with some kind of instrument. They turn the baby. They pull the baby out from the womb. Legs first, obviously. The baby, by the way, during this process is struggling, to stay alive. It's fighting against this. So even though the baby is just a baby, it knows that it's being attacked in the womb. So, but in any case, you pull you pull the legs out, you pull the arm, thing. Now you get to the shoulders. And the shoulders aren't going to go through the birth canal because the birth canal is not dilated. So what we got to do is we got to dislocate the shoulders and stuff. So then we go ahead and we do that. We do that manually and everything. Again, baby's alive. Now you can't get the head out because the head's too big to fit through the birth canal. So then what we do is you take a scalpel or hose, whatever you want to call it, but you got to slice open the base of the skull. And then once you've sliced open the base of the skull, that's when the vacuum cleaner hose gets shoved in there and they vacuum out the brain. And when they vacuum out the brain, this causes the skull to collapse, and now you can take that baby out. So that's what a late-term abortion is. And, the funny thing about a late-term abortion, and just abortions in general, is that I remember when I was younger, and I used to think that there was nothing wrong with an abortion. I thought, like a lot of people do with the whole clump of cells, and it's not really a baby and all that other stuff and everything. And, I didn't know. And then you educate yourself. And I remember learning about late-term abortions when Christy Todd Whitman was the governor of New Jersey. And she had, they were trying to outlaw late-term abortions in New Jersey. And she signed for him, said, no, it's cool. And a Republican. She signed for him. Said, no, it's fine. It's good. What is this late-term abortion deal? So I went and I looked. I educated myself on it. And once I found out what a late-term abortion is and what it entails, I was absolutely horrified because we don't do that to animals that we hunt. Meanwhile, we're doing that to a baby in the womb. It's disgusting. What I was thinking about doing on this was I was going to post pictures of what a late-term abortion looks like. And you know what? I just thought to myself that it's just not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do for the baby, and it's not the right thing to do in this kind of setting. And we can find online pictures and videos of all kinds of surgeries. I mean, for God's sake, South Park did, excerpts of a sex change operation on TV. But it's interesting that you never see that with an abortion. And that right there should kind of hint to you the horror of what an abortion is. The barbaric killing of a baby. So any case, I thought to myself with this whole situation, a little bit of education goes a long way. So let me give you some highlights of development. Now you can find this online on many, many different websites for the for the development of babies and stuff like that, because it's not politicized. We're talking science. I went to Verywell Mind, and the reason why I went to Verywell Mind is because it's got a lot of CDC stuff in it. It's plain speaking. It's just good old fashioned generic. This is the development stage. This is what's going on, so on and so forth. No other explanation, no politics, no nothing. It's just telling you what's going on. So, when does life begin? Now, I think to be intellectually honest about it, you have to say that life begins at conception. And the reason why I say that is because where else would you say that life begins? And when you say that life begins somewhere other than conception, you have to say, well, what was it before that, and what made it life to make that change for you? 1 month, 2 months, 9 months, whatever. Or, in the case of some guys in Virginia, 10 months and 13 months and so forth. But you got to be honest with yourself about it. So, but in any case, I believe that life begins at conception. If you want to make your arbitrary line somewhere else, I'm fine with that. That's a decision that you have to make. But as far as the stages of development that are happening with that baby, so you got to think of it this way. The 3 weeks after conception, this mass of cells, as they call it, is distinctly human, and I'll explain that. So it's just so funny that we have to talk about this. But in any case, so 4 weeks after conception, the neural tube forms. This is what later develops into the central nervous system. This is 4 weeks after conception. So in other words, a month, we've got the nervous system developing. The head begins to form. It's quickly followed by the eyes, the nose, the ears, and the mouth. Okay? That's 4 weeks. 4 weeks in. 8 weeks. 2 months. All basic organs and parts except for the sex organs have formed. A little bit of a sidebar. All of this formation in a baby that is 1 inch big. Okay? So just remember that. The nervous system is also defined. So if the nervous system is defined, that means that the baby feels pain. It feels things. So this is 8 weeks. We're 2 months. We're not even past the first trimester. We're 8 weeks in. Okay? 9 weeks to 12 weeks. There's reflexes. It starts to move. It's responding to stimuli. The sex organs start to differentiate. It's moving. This is 9 to 12 weeks. 9 to 12 weeks. All of this has happened. So by the end of the 12th week, all parts of the body are formed. That's 4 months in. That's it. It's a baby now. All of its distinctness, you can look at all the different parts of it, and it is a human being. There is no arguing this. So this is all around the first trimester. So the people who are saying we should have late-term abortions, they are killing a human being. That's all there is to it. There's no arguing this anymore. There's no philosophizing about this anymore. That's a person. So if you're saying that this is a person, why are we allowing it to be killed? Why does that person have any less worth and value? He said, well, you only care about it right now, but if it came out, you wouldn't be, what would you get? Are you going to adopt it? Are you going to put it in your house? My sense of worth to a human being is not relegated to whether or not I can afford to put them in my home. It's a stupid argument. That's a human being. If you say they're not sentient, well, okay, fine. What makes it sentient? At what point does that spark turn on, whatever you want to call it? When does that happen? Because we can have that conversation. And I would ask you very bluntly, how do you know? And the answer is you don't. So if you don't know, you have to default to the moment of conception. Now, here's something else about that. So you'll have people who will argue that it's not a baby until it's 9 months. Well, I have a child that was premature. My wife was premature. Were they not people when they were born prematurely and or through C-section? And if they were not people, then when did they become people? And that's the question. And you have to answer that question honestly. No politics, no nonsense. Don't give me the philosophy. Answer the damn question. Children, people, don't have a fully formed prefrontal cortex until they're in their mid-20s. Can we say that person is not fully formed yet, and so I should be able to kill a 22-year-old because they're not people? Oh, but they can speak for themselves, you see. They can argue it. So no, that's a person. Okay, cool. So again, let's bring it back. So when did they become a person? Give me the time and give me your reason for justification of that time. And again, this is the whole thing about the abortion. If you have a successful abortion, that means you have successfully killed a human being. You cannot divorce it. And for people who want to get upset about it, there's nothing to get upset about. This is the way nature's going. Women get pregnant. Women carry the child. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. There's no arguing this anymore. And you can't have the philosophy, but, well, they didn't take their first breath. Well, that's a stupid conversation. So they're still not people until they take their first breath? Really? I mean, you really want to go down that? If you say the heartbeat, well, the heartbeat, that happens back in the first. You're able to hear the heartbeat within the first 6 weeks to 8 weeks. So again, no late-term abortions. Got to get rid of them. So I don't get this. Now, here's the other thing about the abortions. Let's talk numbers, shall we? Since 1973, we've aborted somewhere around 70 million babies. 70 million babies dead. Just dead. So let's get the other argument out there. Well, in the what about rape and incest? That's about like 0.5%. Maybe, because it really can't be quantified. But let's say I cede that to you. Okay, cool. Hey, you know what? In the case of rape and incest, go ahead and have your abortion. In the case of the mother's health, the mother's going to die, or we gotta abort the child. Okay, cool. I'll cede the argument. I'll give it to you. For that situation, go ahead and have the abortion. Do me a favor, because it's not going to be a situation where you're not going to know, because someone knows when they've been raped. The incest thing, someone knows. And by the way, those guys that do the raping and the incest, yeah, put them to death. In my world, they're gone. They'd never be able to do it again. And the other guys, half of the other guys who are thinking about doing it wouldn't do it because they know that they're going to get the death penalty. But in any case, let's say we let those go. Okay, so 70 million? You can't use the exception to define the rule. You just can't. It's a stupid argument. So again, I say 70 million since 1973. So, when you're doing the abortion thing because it's a matter of convenience, well, it's going to ruin her life. How do you know that? How do you know? How do you know? And let me make the stupid argument here. I'm driving down the road. I'm drunk. There's a guy who's walking across the street. My reflexes are a little slow because I'm drunk. I'm half in the bag. And I hit him. He doesn't die. He's in a vegetative state. He's in the hospital. I'm getting sued by his family. I'm going to have to pay his hospital bills. I'm going to have to pay his continuing care, and all the other stuff that goes into it. Can I go in the hospital and kill him? Because it's a matter of convenience. It's going to ruin my life. I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the money to keep paying for his medical bills. He's vegetative. He's not coming out of it. Why can't I just kill him? He's not a person. He's not thinking. He's not responding. All he does is eat and crap on himself. How come I can't kill that guy? What's the difference? Any argument that you make to justify the killing of an unborn child, you can do the same type of argument outside of the womb with an adult. And on that adult, you'd say, no, you can't do that. What is the difference? Is it the location? Is it the size? Is it the age? Either way, it's all philosophical bullcrap. That is a human being that we are killing in the most awful way, in a painful way. You realize that when they stick those instruments into the womb to do whatever they're going to do with that baby, the baby actually moves away from it. It doesn't know that, oh my God, there's forceps coming at me, but it's aware that there's an object in the womb that doesn't belong there, and it moves away from it. That's extraordinary. You're talking about human life. Meanwhile, we got 70 million of them gone. And again, close to 40% of them are black. So can I call you a racist because you want to keep the abortions going? We're not talking about taking women and putting them in servitude. We're talking about increasing the level of responsibility for everyone involved. If you make fun of the people who say, well, there's one surefire way of not getting pregnant, and that's abstinence, and people laugh at that, but it's true. The baby is the consequence of a decision that you might not have made in the best thought process, but the cleanup of that mistake or that lapse in judgment or whatever is not to kill a human being. It's to man up, so to speak, and say, okay, well, I got to take care of this. Got to handle it. Got to take care of it. And is it going to be rough? Yep. It's going to be rough. Is it going to be difficult? Yep. Yes, it is. But, most of the time, the right thing to do is the roughest thing to do. It is the most difficult thing to do. So I don't want women to be subservient. I want women to be responsible. I want men to be responsible. I want to have rational conversations about this topic without people screaming and yelling, I ate my baby, I'm proud of my abortion. That's not what I want. I don't want people dying. I don't want that at all. What I want is rational conversation surrounding a topic that we need to discuss in a logical fashion and come up with things. There is all kinds of birth control, and please don't tell me that you cannot afford birth control. You can go down to a CVS, Walgreens, Wawa, 7-Up, and get yourself some condoms for $1.50. You can go and get birth control pills. Will cost you anywhere from $20 to $30 a month. Or there's all the spermicidal stuff. Or there's just not doing it until you're ready. And I don't understand why we can't talk about that. I don't understand why abstinence is not a rational and a reasonable thing to discuss when it comes to abortion, because the other side is so much worse. Let's kill the baby. Kill it in the most horrific way possible. Go online, try and find pictures of aborted babies. They're horrific. They're horrific. There's people who are online, they'll see a pelican eating a pigeon, and they go crazy. There's the viral thing of the monkey bashing a seagull before it eats it, and people think that's bad. Again, what are we doing to abort a child? Crush it, burn it, dismember it, suck its brains out. It feels pain after about 2 months. I don't understand how this is even a conversation. Meanwhile, if you're saying that you don't want there to be abortions, somehow that makes you a bad person. I don't get it. I've never understood it. So keep that in mind the next time you're calling somebody a bad person because they don't want there to be abortions. I would strongly encourage you to educate yourself on abortions. And by the way, I haven't even gotten into that's just the abortion. Haven't gotten into the old, what are they doing with the bodies of these children? You had Project Veritas going to Planned Parenthood, find out that they're selling the bodies. They're using them for transplants. They're doing this, they're doing that and everything. I got attacked because I put online a speech from a young lady who survived an abortion. She should have been dead. And she's got all kinds of health problems, and she's had to have, like, part of her arm is missing and the whole deal and everything else. And it's tragic. But she's persevered, and, she's making a difference for herself in this world. And what happens to the babies that are aborted, but they are not dead? What do the abortion doctors, what do the abortion nurses do to that child? Well, from what we understand, they drown them, they snap their necks, or they just let them bleed to death. So that's something that needs to be discussed as well. And I could do an hour on that, because in my research I found all kinds of stuff on it. I don't want to talk about it because that's just icky. But again, that's the byproduct of the abortion. What happens when you have one that doesn't go right? They're still going to kill the kid. They're still going to kill the kid. They're finding bags in the trash and the dumpsters in back of these places with parts in them. Those aren't parts. That's the body of a human being. You'd be horrified if you found out that there was a guy going around murdering people, dismembering them, and throwing their bodies into hefty bags and throwing it in a dumpster. Well, that's what's happening to babies. So again, let's have the rational conversation. Let's get rid of the hyperbole. Let's get rid of the nonsense about how this is the handmaiden's tale and all that other stuff. Let's have the rational conversation. Enough is enough. 70 million babies dead from an abortion. And that's just the statistics that we have. So, thanks for listening. I really do appreciate it. I hope this kind of enlightens you a little bit. I hope it gets you to think a little bit. I don't want us yelling and screaming at each other. I'd rather have conversation. And if you feel passionate about it, cool. Be passionate about it. Tell us why. And we'll have the conversation. But it's still death. You're still killing a baby. And until you're able to give me some scientific evidence as to it not being a baby at the moment of conception and explaining to me why, without telling me I'm a terrible person and that I hate women and I don't want to have women to have, and I don't want women to be to have choice, and I want women to be vessels of the state, and I want women to be subservient. I didn't even get into the conversation about the women who have had multiple abortions. You'd figure if you had one once, I mean, that'd be enough. But no, I found bunches of women 7, 8 times. That's their way of that's their way of not being pregnant. They don't want to take. They don't want to have. They don't want to have the the use of condoms because that gets rid of the sensation. They don't want to use pills because that puts hormones and so on and so forth and everything else. So I'll just have the abortion instead. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, but in any case, I don't want to go off on a tangent. I'm going a little long on this. Again, thanks for listening. I appreciate it, and you will hear from me soon.